Yeah,
you had
so
another speed dating thingy.
yep. So that was
Okay.
Tuesday night, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, I went into it less focused on winning, for want of a better phrase. I'm pointing too far. There, now I'm not centered. Yeah, I went in less focused on winning and more focused on just enjoying the experience. And I only got one match, which was a little bit of a surprise because I'd had more at the last event I went to. And I can see what the differences in how I did things were that resulted in that. So I call that a win because more data. Um,
Mm.
and I'm 30, and the woman who texted me didn't know my age. It's hard to tell the age of Asian woman anyway. It turned out she was 40. So it's like, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's probably a sorry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I made that call by the end of the night, which was also a good exercise for me, as in I've never actually said no to a woman before.
Yeah, that's a very
Yeah.
for someone who was in the position of being, being desperate for a woman, to
Mm,
then be in the position of having to say no is a very strange feeling.
mm,
I think a lot of teenagers have that experience at some point, and they go, "Oh, this is weird."
yeah. The weird thing was that so I invited her to join me for dinner at a restaurant, and we talked a fair bit and so on. And the thing that struck me from the whole night was I felt masculine. And part of that is that she was relatively feminine and shy and so on. And after the dinner, I suggested we go ice skating, and I paid for everything for the night. It's like that. It felt right, although my budget wouldn't handle that too often. But it's like $100 for dinner for two, and the event afterwards isn't too much.
That's pretty good
Asian restaurants are generally cheap. Um,
and nice.
yes, exactly. The Western ones all tend to be like, here's your meat and potatoes. That'll be $150. Like, for
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Yeah, the Asian
And
restaurants.
there's no like, oh, this is exciting feeling either. Korean barbecue is
Mm,
always my go-to for you want to do something exciting, cheap, and good. So,
mm,
although I have a soft spot for sushi, which is never cheap, so that's not helpful.
yeah,
But I don't
but
have access to it here, so
uh, Tempuri sushi is not too bad.
I don't have access to that here.
Yeah. But anyway, so went to the ice skating, and she wasn't quite dressed right for it. Like she had a knee length, not quite penciled skirt on, but it's like she managed to ice skate around. She'd done it when she was younger. She had a jacket to put on to stay warm, and she gave it a good shot. And the thing that struck me was uh, I'm not someone to try to exert power over anyone, but I found that in that interaction, I had that. Even if I didn't want to use it for anything, it was like, um,
It was given.
yeah. I was treating the whole experience as let's try and have a good time. I don't think this will work out. I'm not feeling the spark. There's the age difference. And it's like, I will not make a quick decision. I'll give it the night.
You can still behave appropriately, even given that, and be
Yeah,
respectful and courteous.
yeah. And I tried to be a gentleman, like help her with getting her boots on because that can be a bit tricky with getting the clasps on tight enough and things like that. And um, like holding her hand as we were skating around to help stabilize her and that sort of thing. And it was interesting. I've always been very aware of and shy of affection to people I don't know much, but like physical affection. And there's stuff to potentially dig into there, but
Could you define that more? Do you mean being uncomfortable with your own attraction to someone, or do you mean something different?
touch has always felt like what is it?
Ah, I see.
Like
I see where you're going.
a powerful thing that I don't know how to handle. Both touch with other guys, touch with girls. It's like it's a there's a space here and a type of interaction, and I don't know how to move in that space. And so I
So
was,
yeah,
mm,
it's intimate, and I think for everyone it's that way,
mm, yeah,
or
probably.
it should be.
Mm.
I
I
think you can
was,
become desensitized in a certain way, but I don't think that's helpful. To be able to treat it
mm,
in that fashion with that importance adds to the experience for both parties
mm.
in,
But
in the kind of scenario you're in.
it was quite pleasant going around the ice skating rink holding a reasonably beautiful woman's hand. And so that was a pleasant experience. And as we were leaving the ice skating rink, I sort of put my arm around her shoulders, and she didn't resist any of that. And she sort of went along with what I suggested doing. And like I was trying to put into practice what I'd been thinking and theorizing about in terms of like what I've heard described as masculine containment of the masculine strength protecting the feminine and so on. Okay, you go on that side, on the outside of me on the ice skating rink because that's a bit safer and so on. Like being aware of trying to help her feel safe because on a deep level that's an important thing. I think on a instinctive level, and I think I played that side of it with more competence than I have before. I'm not saying it was very well done, but it was,
Progress.
yeah, yeah, and it was better than I have done with someone who I know to that degree before.
Right.
Like,
To be
so
able to
just,
do it sooner.
yeah, yeah, and not so much in a pushy sense, but in a taking a confident step forward
Mm.
without
Comfortable.
hesitating.
Comfortable is the word that comes to mind for me, and I think that works for both you and her,
Mm,
providing comfort.
yeah, yeah, and it wasn't like, well, it wasn't analyzed. It wasn't mentally debated and then decided upon. It was, yeah, this feels about right. And like, at the start, she was guarded, and I could see like her face stayed relatively still, and then she'd be distracted by something else, and it would get more animated because she wasn't focused on the "I don't know this person" mask. So that
Mm.
was interesting to see. And as that slowly thawed out, and the conversation continued, it was
So sort of introvert kind of character.
a little bit, yeah. Um, she likes getting out and doing some sporty things, but she also likes the simple things in life, just having a house and that sort of thing. Working, doing things around the house, like get out and have a job and do tramping, but also cooking and maintaining a house. And it also trying to enunciate what I am looking for in a partner was good practice to be able to lay that out to a potential partner.
Mm. That's really important.
Mm, yeah, and so
Oh, it all sounds like positive news.
yeah, bought a ticket to the next event.
I'm still kind of jealous that you get to go and do these things. I never had the opportunity to develop my skills in speaking to women because I managed to get one before I had even attempted any of that.
Mm,
I went from being a complete failure to having a woman who then became my wife, like, really quickly within a year,
Mm.
or within a couple of days, really, but then, married a year later. And I've only gotten good at it now because I've been with her for ages and been able to see what works and what doesn't and all that kind of stuff. Um, which means I can't try it on anyone else. I can't see if it's generally applicable, if it's, which would be fun, but, well, pointless.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
very happy.
Well, there's. What was it? I can't remember what point I was making when I was describing this to her, but I think it applies to this as well. That there's those guys who stumble into the right way of doing it almost by accident. They have the right physique and they see the right modeled behaviors to copy that are vaguely successful, a little bit of refinement, and then they seem to have it. Although that may just be a outside impression that's
Yeah, there's my hesitation with that one is that what I've learned is that a thing may work generally, but it works
hmm,
generally with a type of woman,
hmm,
and that take whatever stereotype, shy nerds don't get the girl as a stereotype,
hmm,
except they get the girls who like shy nerds
hmm,
because they end up being married and having kids, like most of them. Um, and I could class myself as that if I really wanted to, but I don't quite think so. One foot in a bunch of worlds for me. Um, there isn't one type of woman which one type of approach works for.
hmm,
It seems that even though women are more picky than men, their pickiness is more varied. So the 8 out of 10 thing being equated to 50% for the male female attractiveness.
hmm,
When women do those rankings, yes, they do that, where they say that, that 8 guys out of 10 are below average attractiveness and then 2 are like above. For each woman it's different too. They don't all pick the same. Whereas men do. We're pretty we're pretty standard accurate. Our 50% is 50%. But we also all pick the same girls for the 10.
I thought the
Whereas
girls.
women don't.
I thought there was more correlation between different women. I can agree there'd be definitely variation, but I'm thinking of the Tinder example of the
There
top
is
5 to
correlation.
10%.
Yes, but
But
Tinder
there's
is
filtering in terms of who uses the app.
yeah, there's selection before they get to the testing phase there because you can only select for things that can be displayed
Mm,
through a visual medium like a photo and a small description. You
yeah.
can't select for, you can't just put funny. That doesn't work.
Mm,
And you can't put things like I'm really adorable when I talk about something I care about, which
mm,
is what seems to be the girls who like nerds like about them. So they get
mm.
super intense about a thing and they're like really excited and then they share that.
There
And
was
some
a
women love that.
there
My
was
wife
a
likes
clip
that.
I saw. What was it? One of these things that went around the internet at one point of show me what you never have to worry about your boyfriend cheating with, or tell me why you never have to worry about your boyfriend cheating without telling me why. And this girl went in to her boyfriend's man cave, and matchbox cars arrayed up the wall, and he was like, "Oh, what you doing?" "I got the new one, take us home." And it's like you're excited and happy about this, yay! But I never need to worry about another girl taking you.
And it's like the dad bod thing that
Mm.
that women actually prefer in long-term partners guys with a bit of a belly. And the guys who have like complete chisel abs and stuff, super attractive for whatever short term, but then
Mm.
they don't like that for
Yeah.
longer term selection because it's intimidating. Might go
Mm.
out and get someone else. He could easily.
Mm.
Whereas the guy who's got a bit of a belly, he's like, I'm happy.
Yeah. And
I'm good.
I suspect that if you're playing the short term game, you the features that you select for are different in the long term game. And I think that the long term game you'd select for more diverse features, or different women would select more diversely.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And I feel like
Whereas,
that's
yeah, if you're
linked.
doing all short term, it's going to be
Mm.
nailed in on the same thing. Same with men with women, to be entirely honest.
Mm.
We are more on the physical thing, but I don't actually think that men select women based for long term based
Mm.
on the physical appearance.
I
We
remember
say
reading
we do,
something. Yeah.
and we all talk about that because I think men don't quite understand themselves as well as we think.
Yeah.
But when it comes to women, I don't think that we pick them on that too much. It's more
Mm.
getting along, compatible, not
Some,
annoying is probably the key one.
Something that I remember noticing from when I was in my relationship with my ex was, how do I put this? Sort of appearance rose tinted glasses linked to attachment feelings in the sense of, I like you, therefore you look good to me. In the sense,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's not just that here are the objective physical things that I like. And I've seen sort of hints of this elsewhere in things that guys have said in other contexts. That a woman whose husband was a photographer and she complained how he never retouched her photos as much as he did the customers, and it's like, he did. And said, what? I did retouch your photo. What are you talking about? All these things here. It's like, those are all things I love about you. And it's like
Yeah.
the imperfections become, what is it? Rather than being a perfect model that's fake. So here's the real, and here are the things about that real person which distinguish them from every other real person, which are what I love because I love them.
Hmm.
And the things that make them not other people are the things that I love.
I think that's the key. Is the things that make them them. I would
Mm,
say it's less about you're very attractive. It's more growing to appreciate.
mm,
It's what feels like the word. It's like I love you as a person, and because of that, I'm going to like appreciate you as you are, and over time, what you are in your totality. Because we're human
mm,
beings. We can't separate out the physical and non-physical.
mm,
As much as we like to think we can in the modern world, that's not how our brains work. So we look at our partner and we see all of them.
mm,
We don't just see the face and then judge that as yes, no, attractive, or the body. In the face, we see the behavior of the person, how they behave towards the kids or the partner or
mm,
the people around them, how much they smile, how much they don't, how well they look after themselves. And all of that is mashed into I see her face and it's beautiful to me. It's
mm,
all condensed in there. I think your brain receives all of that information every time you look at the partner, whether
or at
that's
least you come into
internal.
contact with that chain of association.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once you
Mm,
see the person, it lights all those sectors up, and then that brings the response of, "Wow, I love you, not your face."
mm. Yeah. There was another thought I had about, like, we talk about the masculine and the feminine as though anyone completely embodies one or the other. And the feeling, or the thought I've been having about that recently, we may have already talked about things related to it, but that I am male and I am more masculine than feminine, although in some ways I have a more feminine temperament, but that's the point, that I am not singular. I am, in that sense, a duality, a slightly imbalanced duality,
Mm.
but so is everyone. And it's like my more feminine aspects are not a detriment to finding a feminine woman. My masculine aspects will meet the right woman's feminine aspects, and my feminine aspects will meet her masculine aspects. It's the division of responsibility and labor in a relationship. It's like,
It's the
um,
Tao.
sorry,
It's the Tao,
yeah,
or
very
the
much so. The
yin yang.
yeah, yeah,
It's
and
to be entirely one side would be unattractive. Because if you
mm,
think of an entirely masculine person, it's like they're not going to be super sympathetic,
mm,
or like care about your day, or give you a cuddle when you need it.
mm,
And the other way around for women, like an entirely feminine personality for a woman would be insufferable. At no point would she be able to say like put aside her own things to deal with the problems at hand.
mm,
These things aren't helpful. The right balance is
mm,
masculine until you need to be feminine, or feminine until you need to be masculine.
mm.
Each is a mode of adaptation.
Yeah,
We keep
it's
thinking in binaries in the modern world. This is the trouble with everything needs to go in a box so I can judge it.
mm,
And probably that's why the gender benders have got such influence at this point, is that everyone else is saying one or the other. And they're coming along and their big message is like, no, it's more fluid than that. And the answer is they're right, but they're obviously wrong in their extremes. But because the current stories have such holes in them, it creates a opening, a vulnerability that can be used as an exploit. Same
mm,
with those who fall through the cracks of capitalism being a vulnerability for people to come along and start spouting communist ideas.
mm.
Like they're
On
wrong, but they're addressing a
mm,
point that's a hole in the current story. If we had a more integrated story, it
mm.
wouldn't be able to be exploited in such a way.
There's something now sort of links to your comment about the gender benders. I like that phrase. Um, there was a clip I saw
All I can
which
see is the Avatar TV show.
that would
Sorry.
be
And then the Fire
uh,
Nation attacked.
and then the they them's attacks.
Yeah, something like that.
Which nation would
The
that
pink
be?
ships, rainbow
Yeah.
ships or pink ships, one or the other.
Uh,
Mm.
but
Well, anyway.
someone had apparently done a study of past civilizations and found a correlation, well, a series of um, correlated points. And I can't remember what it was. I sent you the video. It was just a short one, but it made me tempted to check out the podcast it came from. Um, he'd found that female sexual liberation was something that happened near the fall of every one of these past civilizations. And
Mm.
he gave the hypothesis, I think, that it contributed because if you deconstruct the, how would you phrase this, the reward system for loyalty to the current structure, then guys stop caring about the current structure. And I'm saying reward system in a very sort of base way of having a long-term relationship, having a fulfilling relationship. And there's the
Or
obviously
status,
physical aspect to that. Sorry?
or status amongst the group, like
Yeah,
social
yeah.
status within the organization itself.
Mm.
These things will all be diminished.
But I think that the the reward of female companionship in every sense of that word or that phrase. Um, Having a life partner, like
Okay. Um,
it's a little bit crass to talk about it that way, but it's also true in the deep instinctive levels. Like without that reward system there for men to strive towards, you get incels in modern sense, and are they going to care if civilization in its current form collapses?
you're opening a door to a very long and very not PC conversation, which I would like to do, but I also promised my woman that I'd do a shorter show tonight.
Ah, okay,
Um,
right, that's important.
I do want to do that, but yeah, you're getting on the. God, there's so much to say there.
Should we talk about cyborgs
You are
instead?
you are, no. What's the time? Just by the way.
Uh, Coming up 7.
Okay. We'll do a bit of a preview. We can talk about these things the next few days. We're going to try and do a couple recordings in the morning, um, and they may or may not have the camera on, so we should be
Maybe
able to talk
stitching
about those
together.
things. And yeah, maybe, or not. I mean, there might just be a couple shorter ones. It's
Mm.
hard to find time for things like this. Hmm. There are many arguments to be made that the liberation of women in its current form or period is a very dangerous thing to way the society does it. There's a lot of good things to it as well. I don't want
Mm.
to be one of those people who is lambasted.
And there are
Um,
definitely negative aspects to the structure that was discarded in favor of what we have now. That should
yes,
not
but there
be.
is a point to say that every great empire that fell immediately before they fell did this, and then
Mm.
followed with currency debasement and blurring of the sexual gender lines.
Mm.
All of those happened. Um,
Mm. There's the question of what works versus what is righteous, if that makes sense. Like here you have a series of no, the
I
brutal
want to
algebra type
actually,
questions.
I want to jump on that because I think that the biggest problem with the conversation around this was you just touched on it with your what is right and what is just.
Mm. And it's not always fair.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna use Bible quote for this because I think it's very profound and I think it perfectly sums it up. When Adam and Eve are in the garden and they have the moment of falling, where they eat the apple and all of that, Christians regard that as a sinful moment. And after digging in for a while about what is it exactly that's like wrong about that, the idea that I found or that I got from other people was that Eve's sin in that moment was being so prideful in her compassion, her ability to be compassionate, that she believes she could be compassionate and be a nurturer or a protector of something that's pure evil.
Mm.
The idea of not, it is women's instinct to be nurturing and caring
Mm.
and compassionate mothers. And the idea there is that you, as a woman, your pride could go so far that you see all all humanity or all reality as something that needs to be in the infant, protected, nurturing category, and not making the distinction between that and predator.
Mm. I think it's also we should balance it for the sake of balance with what the male equivalent would be.
Yeah, yeah,
The
I
yeah,
will get to that.
yeah.
Yeah, because there's one for each. It's not woman sinned and then we all fell.
Mm.
It was one for each. But I wanted to touch on the woman one particularly because I think when women get into political office, one of the biggest tensions between women and men, because they end up voting different ways, is what groups need to be protected and
Mm.
what groups need to be cast out. And the other half of that problem is that women like to falsify their preferences to make other women happy very often, more than men. Men do it too, but more than men. And then you get into that problem of everyone voting for a thing that no one wants. But regardless, there is an issue there where women en masse, when given political power and authority, can try to be the protectors of something that shouldn't, to, to try and bring in and incorporate something into the group that shouldn't be incorporated. So in the original story, there was Adam and there was Eve, and then she tried to bring the snake into the union of the little community they had. Trusted, accepted it, listened to it. Rather than identifying, hey, this is a snake, not our friend.
Mm.
And on the side of men, I don't think I need to do a short list of what our sins are as men. There's a lot. But in terms of that story, it was just going along with her to a large extent, not taking the responsibility and going, well, she wants to do it and she's a woman and attractive. So I'll just do what she wants to do, even if I have a problem with it. And then later on, which I think is especially key for our modern age, God comes along and grumps at them. And the first thing Adam does is go like, it was her fault.
Mm.
Which is almost reminiscent of this conversation in itself of like, hey, we gave women the vote and now there's issues. Okay. But you also didn't like fight them on the stuff they wanted to vote for, particularly in the last few years with all the cancel culture stuff. Women en masse have come and voted and saying, we want this and this and this and this and this. And men in a lot of situations have been like, sure, whatever you want. Please keep sleeping with me. I'm not going to tell you that maybe the pedophiles shouldn't be accepted or whatever it is. There's a lot of issues with the blurring traditional gender roles and the breaking down of society and what is incentive for male and female and all of those things. I'm not saying this is the one be all and end all, but I think it's one that's not often touched upon in the modern conversation, particularly around what are the consequences of the fact that we gave political power to women, which is the right way to phrase the conversation. This isn't a conversation of we did it and it was a mistake, because that's A, it's dumb, it's not changing, and B, it's very accusatory and not helpful. A far better conversation to have is, okay, this is a thing that was done. Obviously, that's not being undone because people care about it, and nor should it be. But what are the knock-on effects of that? What does a completely feminine political philosophy look like? Is it a rise of something like compassion gone too far? The same way that men have the rise of, or the problem of aggression or self-interest gone too far. And you could easily jump.
Tendency to control and impose, like, here is my order structure. You shall follow it.
You could very easily go like, hey, on the male side, fascism, into that too much authority, too much order, follow the culture and like our people above all others. You can see that. And then on the feminine side, I could very easily throw something like communism in there.
I think
Like a story on both sides that,
Mm.
when put into practice, just doesn't work and goes way out of
Mm.
control.
But in many ways sounds like an improvement on what we've got.
Lots of things sound good, but aren't very helpful in
Yeah.
practice.
The way I've been thinking of it is, uh, if you can imagine, I'm adjusting the metaphor a little bit to make it more comprehensible, but if you can imagine um, a landscape that floods every now and again, you've got higher points and you've got lower points, and the higher points are more stable, but maybe lacking certain things. Like this mountain over here, it's high, so the uncertainty of the world, the floods, doesn't hit it, but
Mm.
one of the sexes is powerless essentially, and that can be very bad in that way. Here's this other sort that is brutal to its younger generation constantly. I'm thinking ancient Sparta in a sort of low resolution sense here.
Yeah.
And we can be on our high spot as things are stable and say, let's move in this direction because it will improve these aspects of life. There are more of this type of social resource in that direction. So we move in that direction and some things get better, but then we forget what we've lost, what we're not aware of what we're leaving behind because you don't know what you've lost until it's gone
It's the problem of
or till
being
you
a
feel the lack
progressive
of it.
society.
Mm. And so the flood comes and situations get strained because of that, the flood
Yeah.
representing chaos of existence.
You don't have traditions
And
to fall back on either.
yeah, I'm not, I think it's important to say that this isn't saying that the only way to be is Victorian England with all
Yeah,
the social
yeah,
restrictions thereof.
yeah, and we don't want to go back. It was brutal.
Mm, yeah.
We we're very forward looking here. I think both of us
Mm,
can agree that we can have a conversation and go, okay, this topic is unacceptable to the public. Let's talk about
mm,
it. But let's not also become another one of those places where people go, women bad or whatever. There's a lot
yeah.
of stupid people who will go, oh, an unacceptable topic. Awesome. I'm going to be the one who talks about it, but I'm going to do it in such a way that's pushing everyone towards my completely unacceptable political opinion.
Yeah.
Because it's a pipeline. If it's not in the public discourse and someone comes across it, they're going to think, oh, there must be truth here that is being denied to the public. So I'll go to the place where the truth is. And then they encounter all these bad actors and end up trusting them because at least they told them the truth. And then they end
Mm,
up in a dark place. Like I've seen, there was quite a few YouTubers that ended up being literal fascists because they went down those roads. Some people I really liked before they went that way. Even a couple, well, a famous comedian.
mm,
That whole thing about alt right pipeline or whatever is true. It would be very useful to another problem with common censorship. When you drive any kind of idea or conversation underground, it by nature goes underground where all the other dark things are. And that means you have to go to the dark
mm,
places to think about it. And you can end up being captured. You have it in the light, you can talk about it, and you can keep things sane,
mm. Yeah, like
which it'd be nice to be able to
we,
do without being afraid of people are going to think that I'm, you know, incredibly sexist and want
mm.
women to be
I,
slaves or something.
I think it would be, I think we can both agree that a stable social structure which
Mm.
is resilient to outside impacts and resilient to internal struggles, because there's always going to be internal disruption over time, which uh, holds up the sanctity of individual rights in the Western tradition, which is a much deeper thing than I comprehend, but holds that up for both men and women to pursue their own unique paths while respecting and cherishing their differences and strengths. Like we talked about women getting into politics. I don't think we could accuse Margaret Thatcher of being too soft and caring.
Yes, but then you get back to the male-female temperament problem. Like,
Yeah.
was she really a, like, feminine temperament person?
No.
No. I more mean women getting into politics as in voting, which
Mm,
means they have sway over candidates, and then political party X, Y, or Z becomes a feminine temperament party
mm.
to
And it,
represent that because they're
yeah.
representatives after all. So you end up with
Yeah.
like a meta woman party,
Mm,
which would be the liberal side of the equation at this
mm.
point.
And this isn't even saying that that is a mistake. It's just saying that when you take a new action, there will be unforeseen results of that action. And as those unforeseen results come to light, you'll need to work out balances to it that keep the
I just
society
I just
functional.
had a really weird political theoretical political system that was quite funny.
Hmm.
That men and women vote in different elections. So you end up with four main state candidates:
Hmm.
male right wing, male left wing, female right wing, female left wing, and they all have to like get together and negotiate a solution for the future as a small council. And you need,
Oh,
2/3 majority to, or 3/4 because there's four of them, to get anything passed.
yeah.
So then you have a republic of the four different quadrants of political philosophy segregated by sex to account for the differences, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
Which is probably still better than our current system, where most men are in one camp and most women are in another camp, and then one of them gets to win every 4 years. I'm not a big fan of single leader political systems. An
Hmm.
actual republic would be amazing. But we don't have any anymore. America's not a republic anymore, it's fallen.
Hmm.
Which is a shame.
Because looking to the future, um, I want to touch on the cyborg thing because you mentioned that in a conversation that wasn't recorded a while back, and
Okay. Um,
I think
I
it.
do need to wrap up on my
Yep,
end,
yep. Should we
but
do
we
another
we can
10
do a
minutes?
quick touch on it, and then I'll head off. But we can come straight back to it on our next one if you want.
Mm. Yeah, and then more in depth stuff. We should write some
Yeah,
notes. Um,
yeah, I've got some ideas for prep, but we can talk about that after.
mm. So, cyborg, as I understand the concept, is an integration of machine and human, sort of biological and technical working together.
Yeah.
If you strip it all the way back, we're tool using animals. So that's the very simplest version of that. Monkey with rock is the first cyborg.
Yes.
But if you bring it into the near modern and modern context, like you have pen and paper, you have a slide rule and so on, you can do a whole lot of stuff with that.
Mm.
But the processing is biological assisted by external lookup tables and so on. And then you bring in computers, and then that at first it just extends that capability and more ways to interact with it and so on. You've got smartphones, you've got computers with keyboards, you've got new things coming up like the Apple thing, augmented
Yeah.
reality, and so on. And
Neural.
then, yeah, Neuralink. Yeah, Neuralink and AI. Potentially a very scary combination if it gets direct contact,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
it's
Particularly because there's no such thing as secure software.
yeah, yeah, especially if an AI is trying to hack it. Like who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, I mean,
That's just
even humans, we can't make. Yeah.
yeah. But the bit that interested me out of that was I can I feel like we'll continue to see that cyborgification of humanity. Like having a smartphone is a level of
Mm,
cyborgification of yourself. Like how many people
I agree.
let their phone do their thinking for them, like calendar apps and navigation and so on.
You just have to tell by behavior.
Mm.
You go to someone and go, "Can you put this away for a day?"
Mm.
Or, "Can you give me?" "Hey, can I have your blank?" Almost anything, people will be like, "Yeah, sure." Any
Mm.
tool, they'll be like, "Yeah, here you go." Phone? No.
Mm.
There's an intuitive sense that, like, "No, this is part of me. This is mine, and no
Mm.
one touches it."
Yeah.
Now, my wife and I, we have somewhat sharing of our phones, but I don't think we ever let anyone else do that,
Mm.
which actually opens an interesting door, was it? Yeah, cyborg plus, like, intimate relationship might be an interesting combination,
Mm.
regardless.
But the bit that was most interesting to me was if you think of presence on the internet to be somewhat correlated to cyborgification as described, because most of these devices are internet connected. Um, if you,
Yeah.
yeah, you've got sections of the world that are near invisible to the internet. So you've got, if you use the internet as your measure of humanity, or participation on the internet as your measure of, if you survey the people on the internet and try and draw conclusions about humanity from that, you've got a biased sample to start with.
Yeah.
And I can foresee that as the crises that we're facing continue to progress, access to the internet is likely to become more difficult for parts of society. And I could even see a rejection of that as a sort of reaction to that to deal with it. Like, I'm not,
Parts of society?
sorry, well,
What
the more
parts, you mean?
the more rural areas, like yes, there's Starlink and so on, but that's expensive, relatively speaking. And I can see that you'll get the lower socioeconomic layers, especially in less developed countries, dropping off from the internet to greater degrees, so that you end up with those who exist in the internet sphere thinking things are one way, and the sphere is gradually shrinking and they don't notice, like sort of
I
the edge of
don't
the world dropping
I don't
off.
see that. I don't see that
Mm.
happening at all. I see nothing but continual adoption. But one of the mobile companies in our country
Mm.
is rolling out Starlink interoperability with their mobile phone plans.
Mm.
So you have 100% coverage everywhere in the country. And it's just a mobile plan, you know. Yeah, it'll be on the higher end, but that's now.
Mm.
I foresee, I think everyone on the planet will have a cell phone in a reasonably short amount of time. And I don't see how they would have that without internet connection within also a reasonably short amount of time.
Devices being able to connect ever more easily, I can still agree with.
Are you
I've got
thinking
one of those
financially?
mm, a combination of financial and resources in the sense of
Well, this will be a contention we can't solve because I don't see anyone getting poorer anytime soon,
mm,
particularly developing countries.
a lot of this is a vision that arose in my head, and this sort of conversation is great for. I had this story that arrived in my head, and oh, I can't back up that bit. It
Hmm.
feels right in this context, but I can't back it up in any ways. Yeah, so
Perhaps that's something to think about
yeah, I've moved
to
it
flesh
into
out the
the
vision a bit more before next time we talk.
yeah, I've moved it mentally into the not proven slash not provable category in my head than from the more likely future category.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to flesh that out a bit because I don't understand how it would come to pass. I
Yeah, I'll
think
need to
these things will
ruminate on.
get cheaper forever, particularly last gen stuff always gets cheaper forever. Um, and I think internet, global internet communication through the use of satellites is going to be a big deal. Now, I could see, due to world conflict, there being a fragmentation of that. So your internet might be your country, or even smaller areas than that. But I don't think that disconnection entirely is likely. Needs more fleshing out. Let's do that next time.
Yeah, I need to ruminate on it a little bit with those sort of competing perspectives. But you
That
need to
yeah,
get
that was only a
going.
small that was only a small part of the cyberpunk thing I was driving at.
Mm.
The body modification is the other half, which is going to be really interesting. We're seeing the very baby steps of these technologies at the moment, like the augmented reality stuff and bionic limbs or text to speech for people who can't talk and things like that. But it's not going to be too long before we have direct neural interfaces and replaceable and upgradable, which will be the thing where everything changes, limbs. I don't think we'll be able to solve the consciousness problem. So I don't see us cloning ourselves into a robot or anything. But I for sure see everyone's computer is a chip in their brain and not a phone in their pocket. And at a certain point, you won't be having sunglasses as your screens. You'll replace your eyes.
There's some non-enunciated no going off in my head.
I think it'd be very interesting to talk about the split between the people who will and the people who won't.
Yes, because there will be whatever you call them, and
But
yeah,
they will also have their own form of technological process. So it'll most
yeah.
likely be glasses on the face or direct neural interface and eyeballs, or both.
I would even go
But
further for
the
the ones
neural
who reject it
interface is
most.
they're going to be a very small part of the population.
Mm. I suppose that also depends on economic factors. Mm.
Well, that also depends on the cost of doing it.
Mm.
Yeah. As an example, cell phones today, you can go and get one for like no money. That does the trick. You might not be
Need
able
to
to run
test
away
that
with soft
because
or whatever else, but
yeah, I need to test that because yeah, I've been considering getting a new phone, so I need to do some last gen to this gen comparisons of performance and see how that stacks up.
I think mull over those two visions for the next few days and we'll come back and talk about it then.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Catch you later, mate.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.